picture, this picture looks different than the first picture. The first picture, we have parallel lines, and I can tell they're parallel because the slopes are the same. Y equals 2x, y equals 2x minus 3. They have different y-intercepts, so different starting points with the same slope. The second one, these lines are actually considered perpendicular. Perpendicular lines are lines that cross and create four 90-degree angles. So there's many perpendicular lines that I can see in this room. Like the poles that are standing up in the middle of the room are perpendicular with the floor. Also perpendicular with the ceiling. So anything that creates a 90-degree angle is perpendicular. And it has to do with the angle that the lines are going, or that the lines have. And what determines the steepness or the angle of a line? What determines the steepness or the angle of the line, Rachel? The slope. So if we look at these two slopes, they're a little weird. This one has a slope of 5, and this one has a slope of -1/5. The slopes of perpendicular lines are called negative reciprocals of each other. Negative means, I know you're probably thinking like a negative number, but like if you negate something, a negative also means opposite, so you might also hear it called opposite reciprocals. That means one of the numbers for the slope is positive, one is negative. Reciprocal means you take a number and you flip it upside down. 5 or 5/1 flipped upside down is 1/5. So in order to have a perpendicular line, the slopes need to be negative reciprocals of each other. So if I clear this and scroll down, we have the formal definitions of parallel and perpendicular lines. So parallel lines are two distinct non-vertical lines are parallel if and only if they have the same slope. For example, if I have a slope of 2/3, then the other slope must also be 2/3. These would be considered parallel lines. The slopes are exactly the same. Perpendicular lines are harder to tell. Like parallel, it's easy to tell. They have the same exact slope. It's easy to see when something's the same. Perpendicular, you have to be a little bit more careful because consider two non-vertical lines whose slopes are M1 and M2, let's say. The two lines are perpendicular if and only if their slopes are negative reciprocals of each other. That means that one slope will be positive, one will be negative, and that one will be maybe a fraction, and the other one will also be a fraction, but it'll be flipped upside down. So that's what negative reciprocals mean. For example, if I had a slope like -3/5, let's say, -3/5, the negative reciprocal of this, you would flip it upside down, and whatever it is, if it's negative, you would make it positive. If it was positive, you would make it negative. What would be the perpendicular slope with the slope -3/5? Anyone? Good? Yes, thank you. For the few of us that are really paying attention, thank you. Some of you are not paying attention, and it's frustrating to me because some of you do need help and you're not using this time right now. So, -3/5 and 5/3 are opposite reciprocals, or they like to call in the textbook negative reciprocals because one's negative, one's positive, and the fractions are flipped. What if you have something like this? Like, let's say you have just like a slope of 3. What would the negative reciprocal be of +3? Andrew? Yes, a -1/3. Perfect. So because it's positive, it would be a negative, and you flip it upside down, 3 technically is 3/1, exactly. So looking at these two examples, A says y equals -2x plus 4, and y equals 1/2 x plus 1. We want to know if these lines are parallel, perpendicular, or neither. All you need to do is look at the slopes. -2 and 1/2. Are these parallel? That's easy to see no, because they're not. They have to be exactly the same to be parallel. Are they perpendicular? So let's see. The opposite reciprocals or negative reciprocals. You can memorize this, or you can use this idea. This idea says if you multiply the two slopes together, it will equal negative 1. Let's see if we multiply negative 2 times 1/2, if it equals negative 1. If it does equal negative 1, that means they're perpendicular. Well, if I multiply negative 2 times 1 over 2, these 2's will end up canceling out, a negative 1, this will be negative 1 as my answer. So because of that, these would be considered perpendicular. So you can either do that each and every time, or you can understand that you just flip them upside down, one's negative, one's positive, and those would be perpendicular lines. Yeah, you just multiply them. If you get negative 1, then that would be perpendicular. Well, you wouldn't do that for the next one. The next one, I can just see that both of these slopes are 1/3, so these would be parallel. Okay, any questions on that? All right, flip this over to the next page, please. The first problem on the next page is a word problem, and basically what I would do is have you guys create 2 ordered pairs from the word problem and then find the slope. I'm going to skip it for now because of time, and I'm going to move right to this because I know there are some web assigned problems like these ones here. It says solve for the variable so that the line through the given points has the given slope. On the quiz on Friday, for any problems I ask you to find the slope, I'm going to give you the slope formula. So you can feel confident going into the quiz knowing that you don't have to do one more thing. You don't have to memorize the formulas. They'll be there. I will not tell you how to use them, though. You will have to know what this means. I won't tell you what y2 represents or y1. I won't tell you what any of the variables represent. You will have to know that, but the formulas will be there for you. So, the formula, what it does is it takes these ordered pairs and basically subtracts the y's and the x's and then divides them to get a ratio, which is the slope. So if this is an ordered pair, this is the first one that's written. I'm going to call this one x1, y1. Since this is the second one given, I'm going to call this x2, y2. The formula just says take the y's and subtract them. It says take y2 and subtract y1. Okay. So 7 minus 5 will be my numerator. And then the denominator, x2 minus x1. This is weird because this is an x. This is going to be x minus 4. The question says solve for the variable so that the line through the given points has the given slope. This is the slope that I want this thing to equal. In the end, it needs to equal negative 2/3. So let's see what we have here. Let's see what we would need x to be so that this slope is negative 2/3. Well, the numerator, 7 minus 5, can be simplified to just be a 2. So that's kind of cool because this is a 2 and that's a 2, so that works. The denominator is x minus 4. I can't just make this a certain thing. I can't do x minus 4 and combine it because they're not like terms. Somehow, we need this thing to equal a negative 2/3. What number do we need the denominator to equal so that the slope would be a negative 2/3? I heard it. Who said that? Yes. We need this to become a negative 3 in the denominator. And the reason why is if this is a positive 2/3, we would just need this to equal 3. But because it's a negative, we need x minus 4 to equal negative 3. Now, some of you mental math brains will be able to do this without solving the work and showing the work. I'm not like that, and I'm not just saying that to make you feel better. I really am not like that. I had to show all my work in order for it to make sense to me. So to solve this, I would add 4 to both sides, and I get x equals negative 3 plus 4 is 1. That means x would have to be 1 in order for this slope to equal negative 2/3. Let's just verify that that's true. So if we have here 4 5, and 1 7, let's verify that these 2 points have a slope of negative 2/3. Well, 7 minus 5 is 2. 1 minus 4 is negative 3. And 2 over negative 3 is the same thing as a negative 2/3 on the outside. So either way we're good. We're going to have that x would have to be equal to 1. Now the second one is way more difficult than that. What I want you to do is start off the process for the second one. Try it, and then you're going to see that it's a little bit more difficult. This one requires a different step, but let's see if you can take that challenge and try this one on your own. So I'll give you a couple minutes, and then I'll go over it with you so that we can leave here knowing we can do a problem like this. All right, because of time, I'm going to start going over this problem. Similar to the other one, I'm going to start with doing 3 minus y, because that's what I would do if I was solving, and then 9 minus negative 3. Be careful with this because the double negatives, I just have to make sure when I do 9 minus negative 3, it's really 9 plus 3, which is 12. So this one looks different because I need this 3 minus y divided by 12 to equal 3 over 2. And in the last one, it was set up perfectly because the numerators were both a type of 2. This is different because we have a 12 in the denominator and a 2 in the denominator, and then the 3 minus y and a 3. So there's multiple ways to solve this, but my brain, because like I said, I always take the long way. Some of you might be able to find this quicker and just kind of do a couple things and get the answer. I see this and I see proportion. And when I solve proportions, I like to cross multiply. So what I would do is take this thing and multiply the diagonal. So I'm going to multiply 3 minus y all by 2. You would need parentheses around the 3 minus y. Equals, I'd multiply the other side as well. 12 times 3 is 36. And then me, who takes the long way, I would then distribute 2 times 3 is 6. 2 times negative y is negative 2y. So I get 6 minus 2y equals 36. Then solving this equation, I would get negative 2y equals 30 divided by negative 2, and I get y equals negative 15. Which means negative 15 would be the missing value of y in order for this slope to be 3 over 2. Let's verify that. Negative 3, negative 15, 9, 3. So if I use the formula says take this one and subtract that one. 3 minus negative 15 divided by, take this one and subtract that one. 9 minus negative 3. Well, both of these have double negatives, so I end up adding both of these. And 3 plus 15 is 18. 9 plus 3 is 12. 18 over 12. If I divide by 6, divided by 6, this is going to end up equaling 3 over 2. So I know that I did not make a mistake. Okay, so sorry I didn't really give you any time today, but I promise tomorrow I will give you time in class to work on WebAssign. We will finish the rest of these problems tomorrow in class. Then we will use the rest of the classwork WebAssign. Thursday we'll do some sort of fun review in preparation for Friday's quiz.